Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Subway Sports Talk, talking Tyreek Hill, talking Tua Tagovailoa. Hopefully you enjoyed some of those picks we got on the March Madness front. Hopefully we got some hits there. Arizona, let's go. Kansas, Villanova, Moneyline Parlay, how you doing? Miami. We're talking Miami again. Segue into the Miami football team, the Miami Dolphins, the big-time trade that had the world talking about Tyreek Hill going to play with Tua Tagovailoa, leaving Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill parting ways, saying goodbye, saying thank you for your time, and we'll now move on to perhaps greener pastures in Kansas City. I don't know if that's the case. How do you replace a guy like Tyreek Hill? When you look at what the Chiefs just went through over the past year, you feel like they might need Tyreek. And perhaps he was a little banged up here and there. Perhaps the 159 targets that he had were a bit too many for him to hold up the pace that he probably wanted to keep throughout that year. And not like he had a bad year. I mean, by no means did he have a bad year. He had 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill is an absolute stud. We know this, right? He had a couple explosive performances where maybe some of those yards were a little top heavy. But listen, I ain't hating on what happened with Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. And now he has this choice apparently between the Jets and the Dolphins, and the Chiefs did right by him because the Jets did offer more, but Tyreek Hill wanted to go to the Dolphins. That's the story on the street. And now he's hitching his wagon to a quarterback named Tua Tagovailoa, a guy who's 13-8 in his 2 years as a starter in the league, a guy who has had 2 different offensive coordinators, a guy who is now going to be on his 3rd head coach, a guy who, McDaniels people seem to like as a coach so far. He hasn't coached a game as a head coach yet, but right. Let's be a little bit optimistic here for a second about Tua and the Dolphins and this newfound situation with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Mike Gesicki, amongst some other options here on offense for Miami. Tua's been winning games. He's 13-8. But there are clear setbacks to what he can do as a quarterback at this point in time. These are not setbacks that were always known or always expected to be on a quarterback who we saw absolutely light up the college ranks in a plethora of ways. We're talking quick hitting, accurate passes all day, every day, deep bombs down the field to guys like Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith, amongst others, right? And then all of a sudden, he gets to the NFL. He's banged up after the hip injury in college. He comes in, he wins some games. He's not doing a lot. He's not doing a little. He's kind of just getting by. He's kind of just trying to avoid those mistakes, trying to move the ball, work that defense, and then allow his defense to help the Dolphins win more games. We all know Brian Flores was a successful coach, and perhaps there's many reasons why he's not currently the coach. Obviously, the one being that he's not happy with the ownership down in Miami because of how they handled him and handled the situation and trying to win. We're not going to get into that. That's for a different time. Brian Flores can win football games as a coach. Where does the credit go? Does the credit just go to the defense? Does the credit just go to Tua being this game manager? Or does he deserve some credit for being a winning quarterback in a league where it's really hard to win games? Again, I said I'm going to be positive here for a second. So here's the case to make this thing work for Tua, Tyreek, and the Dolphins. Talked about him having multiple offensive coordinators to this point. We talked about his injuries. He hasn't had a full season yet in 2 years, and he had a catastrophic injury towards the end of his college career. So with that being said, I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt to a certain extent. He clearly has the ability to read a defense. He clearly has the ability to throw the ball accurately in the short range. What he hasn't been able to show is the deep ball accuracy, deep ball ability to even get it out there due to possibly bad O-line, again, offensive coordinator issues, even just the talent around him. But there's reason to believe he still has something in him that will allow Jalen Waddle to continue to flourish, to Tyreek Hill to continue to be Tyreek Hill. Because you got this new coach, you got a new opportunity, you have another year to get healthy, another year to get more comfortable with NFL defensive lines coming on you, right? So there's reasons to believe Tua can turn things around. On the flip side, there are very much so reasons to feel negatively about the outcomes or the outlook for the Miami Dolphins. Part of that has to do with Tua. Part of that has to do with the weird fact that the Kansas City Chiefs wanted to get rid of Tyreek Hill, or were just okay with getting rid of Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is going to be in his 28-year-old season. He's had a ton of use, a ton of playoff run in the past 4 or 5 years. That's a great thing, right? Experience, veteran at this point in time, a guy who is sure-handed, an absolute burner, a dude who can take a 10-yard slant to the crib. All those things are accurate. But is it not just a little bit fishy that the Kansas City Chiefs are okay with moving off Tyreek Hill without an heir apparent at the wide receiver position? That becomes a little bit sketchy to me. That becomes a little bit curious to me. Now, I'm not saying Tyreek Hill is going to fall off a cliff here, but to think that he's going to have 160 targets, 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns is something that's a little bit scarier to bet on. Something that's a little bit more unsure to just chalk up for a guy who, for now, 4 years, 5 years of his career has been basically 1,000+ yards and nearly 10 touchdowns. Combine that with the fact that Tua is struggling to get the ball deep, struggling to find time with a poor offensive line, struggling to stay healthy in general. Should make you nervous if you're a Dolphins fan. Should make you nervous if you're a guy pulling for Tua, which I am. I'm pulling for Tua. He's a guy who I would get behind, a guy who I do root for, but a guy who is sometimes very hard to defend because it's always talking about the world of ifs, always talking about what could be or how it should be, and not frequently how it is. So, despite the winning record, despite the talented defense, there's question marks here. And here is the big kicker for what makes me nervous about this situation. Jalen Waddle, young, stud wide receiver. Tyreek Hill, more middle-aged for a wide receiver, stud. Tua, still unproven going into year 3. Now, normally, you have a still unproven quarterback going into year 3 who's had some success, who's had some setbacks, who's had some question marks. You're still in good shape. He's still on the rookie contract. You're not spending money there, so you should spend elsewhere and bolster that roster. Absolutely, right? But now, if you think about the timeline of the Dolphins, in a world where the Tua experiment does not turn into a second contract, does not turn into enough trust in a franchise to continue calling him the franchise quarterback. Let's look at this. I just mentioned Tyreek Hill is going to be 28. If we go one more year, maybe Tua starts 13 games. He's a little bit healthier, but still misses a couple for injury. Maybe now he's 18, 19 touchdowns instead of the 11 and 16 that he had in the past 2 years. Still 10 to 12 interceptions because he is still a little bit mistake prone. Even though he seems like this really safe quarterback, he does tend to kind of chuck it up occasionally. So now it's after year 4. Tyreek Hill is going to be nearly 30. He's going to have a hell of a lot of targets under his belt, hell of a lot of hits, a lot of mileage on those legs. Is he going to be the receiver that you need him to be when you finally figure out this quarterback position? Because right now, Deshaun Watson, with who knows what's going to happen with suspensions and whatnot, he was talked about as a Miami option. Not happening as of right now. Obviously, he's going to be in Cleveland. Who knows what happens in a year? Where are all these other quarterbacks in the Russell Wilson range, the Aaron Rodgers range, the Deshaun Watson range, even the Matt Ryan range of guys who you can bring in if Tua proves to not be the guy in the next 2 years? Clearly, that quarterback's not in this draft. At least most people believe he's not. And it doesn't seem like that stud free agent quarterback or quarterback looking for a trade is on the horizon either. So if it happens like it most likely will, where Tua is probably still in this mid-tier at best, where he's not quite the dude, he's not terrible clearly, they win 7 to 10 games, What happens next? I spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about Daniel Jones and the Giants and how it might be the best option to rip the Band-Aid off. Because you think about what happens when you keep rolling it out and you keep kicking the tire down the road. You spend in other places, and by the time you get the quarterback right, those expenditures are getting old. Sterling Shepard can't stay on the field. Saquon Barkley is now not what he once was, even though he's already not that, right? There is no stud receivers. And then by the time you get a quarterback, your books aren't looking good. The salary cap's looking ugly. And then what? Right? Or you're starting scratch with another rookie quarterback who's unproven and unsure. That's what would make me the most nervous for a Dolphins fan, for a Tua fan. If it doesn't work out this year, okay. Maybe it's average. Maybe you're still winning 8 games. Maybe you're flirting with the playoffs. You have a nice little run. Waddle still looks great. Tyreek is doing some Tyreek things. Kick it down the road one more time. Tua, year 4. Extension doesn't feel right. He's not that dude. We got to look for new options. And now you got a rookie quarterback coming in with a 30-year-old Tyreek Hill, a frustrated Jalen Waddle, a coach who's on the hot seat because they're not getting over the hump, even if you like them. And there you go. So if you were to think about the odds, if you were going to think about what's most likely to happen, I think that scenario is unfortunately most likely, where it's mediocre. It works sometimes. Sometimes it's ugly. He's the franchise quarterback today. He's got to go tomorrow. And he ends up right in the middle. By the end of the season, he's still got a winning record. He's got a positive touchdown interception. He's getting a little bit better. He was a little bit healthier this year. And then what? You got to find a new quarterback? You're going to keep rolling with a guy who's probably average? You got this expensive wide receiver who's now frustrated or hanging out by the beach a little too much? Unfortunately, I think that's the most likely outcome here. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think that Tyreek Hill comes in, continues to be a stud, changes the dynamicism of this offense, and goes off. I hope so, man. I really do, because I like Tua. I really like Jalen Waddle. And this team could be a whole lot of fun if they get this thing right and they can push the ball down the field. And we're not just seeing a 5-yard air throw from Tua Tagovailoa consistently. Because look into your heart, right? Even if you love Tua, and I know Dolphins fans who feel this way. It's like, I love Tua. I want him to be the guy. I pull for him so hard. But there's just something missing. There's a little bit less juice than he once had, and it's not getting him over any humps. It's unfortunate. Such is life in the NFL. So if it doesn't work with Tua, I don't know who's next for Miami. I don't know who's next for the New York Giants. You might just freaking strike oil, or you might just be stuck with a mediocre quarterback winning 8 games at most. Might be the case for the Dolphins. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. Subway Sports Talk. I appreciate you very, very much. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on the podcast apps. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification buttons, and watch the videos on YouTube. Comment what you think. Is Tyreek Hill going to change the way this Dolphins offense works? Or are we going to be looking for a new quarterback in Miami when Tua continues to just be a little bit too mediocre for what it takes to be a true franchise quarterback in this league? Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening. Peace.